So the three Lexus values are human-centered design, omotenashi, which is about empathy in action, and then we have the Takumi craftsmanship.
Lexus as a brand is steeped in heritage, and we looked at the significance of, for example, Japanese craftsmanship and heritage in it as a brand. What is there in African culture and heritage that could also lend itself to this concept and this narrative?
Lexus is at the forefront in providing a platform that allows for creativity to happen in a vacuum. That opportunity to be able to work within a comfortable environment where you can just explore the possibilities and opportunities and really push this idea of creativity is very powerful.
We were given a really detailed brief about what informs the Lexus design process and craftsmanship, and one thing that stood out for me was the detailing in the grills of its car. I saw an immediate correlation. If we were to take bird's eye scans of villages across this continent, there are different forms of African fractals being practiced, even now, that have been practiced for centuries, and so on. And I just saw immediate correlations with the Lexus grills on the car, and then that inspired some of the design elements that you will see in the details of the leather etching. Innovation is born out of necessity. That's what Lexus has permitted us to do. For any designer, this is beyond a dream. As a designer, you don't even dream of experiences like this. It's so big, it's so phenomenal that, when Tosin approached me to collaborate together, I jumped at the chance.
So I met Chrissa through another designer, Damola Rufai.
He introduced me to her work, and I loved what she was doing. I loved the energy that she brought to her work.
She has done a lot of things within the product design or the design space. She's a textile designer. My passion for art and design comes predominantly from my culture. I'm a Yoruba girl who is Nigerian, and I live in Lagos. And I grew up in the 90s where it wasn't seen as a great thing to celebrate who I was or who we were. There was a big emphasis on external cultures that were coming in.
So I always say that, do not be fooled by my accent, and I always describe myself as living a life of duality. So my own personal design ethos is led by the idea of combining beautiful design with meaningful design.
Architecturally, I love this idea of materiality and tectonics. Like I mentioned, it plays very strongly in my work, how lighting shines on an object and what that can mean within an internal space.
Definitely am big on colour. I think when people see my work, they see a play on colour, they see a play on texture, they see a play on symbolism in an abstract way, in a way that transcends cultures. I think that Lexus's ethos of omotenashi, human-centeredness, and Takumi it very much runs in parallel with who I am as a person, who I am as a designer, and also runs very much in parallel with African design.
I think design in Africa now is going through a cultural renaissance. There is a big emphasis on contemporary design, but also using traditional materials.
Traditional and modern design techniques work best when you understand the materials and their scope, and then allow them to do what they do well, and then fuse them together, as opposed to trying to make an old material do something that a new material can do, and vice versa. I think that this collection will show a beautiful harmony of old and new, tradition and artisanship with technology, which speaks to the Lexus brand.
The local people and environment have immensely influenced how we've approached the output of this project. We've used technology from the vernacular, from the historic, in terms of the casting system used for the Benin bronzes.
Through Tosin's architectural knowledge, we looked at the aspects of 3D modelling and how our designs could be interpreted and understood in that way. And I also think it speaks to our modern times and the world that we live in. We're at the crossroads, if you like, of the old world and the new world. And so it just seemed very natural to do that. And in doing so, we've been able to bring a lot of people in this journey with us.
It's not uncommon to know that infrastructure-wise, Africa is not as advanced as the rest of the world. And originally when we got this project, I was a little concerned about how we'll be able to execute the pieces. And so far, it's been an eye-opener that there's actually a lot more here than I even realized.
I think it's very easy to assume that certain technologies do not exist or are not practiced here on the continent. So to have discovered a laser cutter based here in Lagos was so refreshing, and somebody who has an engineering background who could really educate us on the science of the process to allow us to push the boundaries has been a really exciting experience.
One thing about soft technology is it's available to everyone, and as long as you can think and you can adapt yourself, you're able to use those. So that's been great. In terms of physicality, in terms of the physical infrastructure, that also I've been pleasantly surprised, because we're able to find people here who can do 3D printing. We've also worked greatly with a modeler who's done the mannequin that will be used to display the pieces. We're mixing and matching, but the bulk of the work is actually being done here in Lagos.
There are so many different elements to our design. We have 4 designs with 8 different iterations, and it involved bringing lots of different people in on the journey to share their craftsmanship and expertise.
For this particular project, we started off with a series of sketches. What do we think these masks should look like? We always worked from the idea of precedence, what we could find as an initial reference point, a series of first sketches, which we then use to communicate with the 3D modelers who have produced the actual forms. From that, we've then moved to 3D printing, so we can have a physical object that we can actually then human test and make sure, 1, it's comfortable, 2, the ergonomics are correct. And then from that, we are then producing final finishes where we take those 3D prints and then we create molds from them to then produce the final finishes. Some are going to be produced from brass and bronze with a mix of clear mold acrylic. Others, we're going to create an additional facade on the 3D prints where we're using leather, using beads and rhinestones.
Beaders are very skilled at what they do. They know which beads to use, what combinations to use, and so on. We had an aesthetic that we were seeking to achieve, and they, through their exceptional craftsmanship, were able to help us deliver that in the most beautiful and eloquent way.
Traditional and contemporary design techniques have really been a big emphasis in the work on this project. In particular, we've used modern technology of 3D printing after 3D modeling to produce the forms of some of the masks. Those masks will then, the 3D prints would then be taken to create a mold, which we will then use traditional technology of bronze and brass casting to create the finished pieces. These works are being done in the very old, very celebrated Bronze Casting Guild in the Benin Kingdom.
We traveled to Benin City, which is, the world's most leading city in bronze and brass casting. We met a young bronze worker there who is like the 4th or 3rd generation of his family to practice this craft, so it literally is in his blood. He took us around the town, he introduced us to other practitioners, we learnt about materiality, we learnt about the qualities of these different metals, copper versus brass versus bronze, and what they each can do. So it was almost like a science lesson, if you like, but beautifully crafted and wonderfully informative, and it was a celebration of culture and history that isn't forgotten, but I don't think is revered as much as it should be.
Omotenashi is about being human-centered, about being a good host. It's about empathy in action. And I personally really resonate with this in my work as a designer. I think as an architect, you are always consciously thinking about people. You are thinking about people's occupying of space. Are you creating a comfortable environment? Very similar to what Lexus does with their brand and with the kind of cars that they design.
Takumi speaks to craftsmanship and excellence, I believe. And Tosin, as an architect, having seen her work, She's definitely someone who pursues that excellence in her field, particularly as a female architect based here in Lagos, Nigeria. I, as a textile designer, am also in pursuit of my own interpretation of excellence. Both of us are working with materials that we have never worked with before, but I think as a designer it is a necessity to be bold and to not just stay within your comfort zone. So for both of us it was very important to push boundaries. There were times at which one person was pushing more than the other. We were almost like an elastic band. There was a push and pull flow to the collaboration, so which I think is good because it brings balance and stretches you both at the same time.
So we produced 4 masks for this project. The first one we've called Igaro, which is an area that used to exist in eastern Niger, which is known to have been the birthplace of iron casting in Africa. This particular mask is made up of an acrylic mold and a very delicate profile detail of humanity, which is made in bronze.
In our second design, Ogun was the Yoruba god of metal, technology and war. So Ogun allowed us to explore that, and while also paying homage to the creation details of traditional bronze casting, again marrying a new technology and a new material, acrylic, with bronze and brass.
The third mask we've produced for this project is called Pioneer Futures, and it's an interesting play on the Victorian colour, which we've created an elongated form on, and we've got a clear acrylic helmet, which is really an opportunity to protect the eyes, and the colour protects the mouth. And then in between there's a shield created also for the nose. This is made from leather that is laser cut and also technically folded.
I hope that this project evokes emotions of joy for everybody that we have carried on this journey with us, joy from Lexus that they are proud of what they see. What has been beautiful is to see the original sketches to how the project evolved and adapted. You know, one of us would present an idea and the other would be like, can't see it, pushing us to expand the boundaries, pushing us to communicate the concept of the design, why this form fell like this, why this line should be like this, why this material should be considered for this element. I'm very proud of all of the pieces individually and as a body of work.
We are very thankful to Lexus for the opportunity. We're very thankful that we got the opportunity to work on this project and to explore our understanding of design, to work with another creative, being Chrissa, who comes from a different design field, and the opportunity for us to kind of meet in the middle, for her to understand my skills, for me to understand her skills, and to be able to produce this very beautiful work.